In the darkness of a brick-lined tunnel lay the bodies of people who had once hunted and tormented him. Her bandaged arms were stained with blood, and a frightening smile stretched across her face. I've already taken care of all the bad people after you, Aoi-kun. Aoi stared at her in horror. He tried to speak her name, but the words caught in his throat. Something about her devotion felt less like love and more like a nightmare given human form. The memory dragged Aoi back to earlier days. For years, he had been plagued by stalkers. Not one, not two. More than 10 separate incidents, each involving different people. Even the authorities found it difficult to believe. I've never heard of such a thing, one investigator admitted. The endless harassment had isolated him from everyone around him. Adults suggested that changing schools and environments might help, but nothing ever truly solved the problem. Wherever Aoi went, the feeling of being watched followed. At his new school, he became known as the silent student. The other students whispered behind his back, "That guy doesn't talk at all, does he? You mean Sakurai? He hasn't said anything in like a week. He's creepy, like a ghost." The words stung, but Aoi had long since stopped reacting. Speaking up never helped. No one believed him anyway. Then one day, a conversation caught his attention. A beautiful woman had moved into a nearby apartment. The boys excitedly talked about her appearance, but one detail froze Aoi's blood. Both her arms are bandaged up. Bandaged arms. The words struck him like lightning. A horrifying memory surfaced. Bandages, long hair, a smile stained with blood. Miyako. Fear tightened around his chest. The police would never understand. They couldn't help, because the things pursuing him weren't human. At least not anymore. He remembered the monsters, grotesque creatures with twisted bodies and jagged mouths. They looked like something ripped from a fantasy novel, yet they had slaughtered people with terrifying ease, and standing among them had been Miyako. Not frightened, not running, smiling. "I'll kill them all for you." Her voice echoed through his memory. It sounded like a confession and a promise. Suddenly, a hand touched his shoulder. Aoi screamed and nearly fell out of his chair. The entire classroom stared. Standing behind him was a girl named Ueda. Blushing nervously, she withdrew her hand. The contrast was startling. Unlike the nightmare that haunted him, Ueda looked genuinely concerned. Later, she apologized. Aoi sat beside her, nervous and uncertain. Ever since she had approached him, she had shown him a kindness nobody else had. Yet something about her behavior felt strange. "You don't have to associate with me," he muttered. Ueda tilted her head, her cheeks slightly red. "I can't be concerned about you?" The words should have sounded comforting. Instead, they unsettled him. Then she revealed why she had sought him out. Rumors had been spreading throughout the school. The beautiful woman who had recently moved into town, the same woman with the bandaged arms, had been asking questions. Not ordinary questions. She had been approaching strangers, students, and teachers alike, searching for one specific person, a male student who had recently moved into town. Aoi? The blood drained from his face. Miyako. The name escaped his lips before he realized it. "She's come here after me." Before panic could consume him, Ueda leaned closer. "I'll do something about it for you." Aoi blinked. "What?" "I'm saying I'll help you out." Her smile widened. "We're friends, aren't we?" The word friends echoed strangely in his ears. Yet he followed her. After school, Ueda led him away from town. The streets became dirt paths. The dirt paths became overgrown trails. Eventually, they arrived at an abandoned school building hidden deep among the trees. The structure looked forgotten by time itself. Broken windows, dust-covered hallways, classrooms swallowed by shadows. "Almost no one comes here anymore," Ueda explained. "I love quiet places like this." Aoi felt a chill crawl up his spine. Something about the place felt wrong, as if the building itself was holding its breath. The deeper they walked, the more uneasy he became. Ueda's footsteps echoed softly across the wooden floors. She seemed almost excited. "Just a little further?" Aoi finally stopped. "We should head back." His voice trembled. "I don't know what you're planning, but I don't want to put you in any more danger." Ueda froze. Then she turned, slowly, deliberately, and smiled. "I already know." Aoi stared. "What?" "I already know about Miyako." The world seemed to stop. His heart pounded. No one should know about Miyako. No one except him. Yet Ueda spoke as though she knew everything. "That's why I brought you here." The darkness around them suddenly felt alive. Ueda's expression softened, almost lovingly. Miyako would only get in my way. Aoi felt cold sweat run down his neck. She has been watching over you far longer than I have. The sentence struck him like a hammer. Far longer than I have. What did that mean? How long had Ueda been watching him? A strange sound echoed through the hallway. Crack, snap, twist. Ueda lowered her eyes. I don't get to choose the order of these things. Then she began pulling at her uniform, not seductively, not playfully, as if she were removing a disguise. Aoi stepped back. Fear replaced confusion. Look at me. Her voice no longer sounded human. Let us become one. The shadows behind her exploded outward. Long segmented limbs emerged from beneath her clothing. Bone-white appendages unfolded from her back and waist. Dozens of insect-like legs scraped against the floorboards. Her body twisted into something horrifying. Aoi's legs refused to move. Don't run. Her many limbs surrounded him, trapping him. The smell of dust and decay filled the room. Are you more excited with this form? Her eyes gleamed with obsession. The thing standing before him still wore Ueda's face. Aoi remembered the mutilated corpses, the twisted creatures, the blood-soaked tunnels, the impossible monsters. They aren't human. The realization finally clicked into place. Everything connected. The stalkers, the attacks, the rumors, the nightmares. They had never been human. None of them. The creature crawled closer. Its countless limbs clicked against the wooden floor. Aoi's vision blurred. This is definitely a bad dream. Otherwise, he was going to die. Dark liquid splattered across the room as the girl drove her weapon forward with terrifying force. A twisted smile curled across her lips while she hissed, "You damn pest." The sickening crack echoed through the abandoned classroom, followed by a pained scream. The grotesque creature writhed helplessly, its body convulsing as she slowly pulled her weapon free. Instead of ending its misery, she watched it suffer with chilling satisfaction. Don't run from me, you insect. The monster coughed and staggered, unable to escape. Nearby, Aoi stood frozen. His wide eyes reflected nothing but shock as he witnessed the brutal execution. Then the girl's voice turned colder than before. You gave my Aoi-kun a scar. Hatred radiated from every word. Whatever compassion she once possessed had disappeared. Without hesitation, she lunged again, unnatural appendages unfurling from her body like living shadows. You deserve a painful death. The creature fled into the darkness, but she pursued it relentlessly. You can't get away. Don't run from me. Aoi instinctively stepped backward. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs refused to move. As the girl passed him, he found himself whispering her name. Miyako. She suddenly stopped. For a fleeting moment, the murderous intensity in her eyes softened. The terrifying aura surrounding her quieted, leaving only an eerie silence. Stay away from me, Aoi shouted. Instead of attacking, Miyako slowly turned toward him. A gentle smile spread across her face, but somehow it felt even more frightening than her rage. It's been so long since we could meet again. She tilted her head. Why are you backing off? I'm beyond ecstatic. Her affectionate smile sent a chill through Aoi's entire body. Why are you here? He asked, struggling to keep his trembling voice steady. She smiled even wider. Isn't it obvious? Her expression gradually twisted into something disturbingly possessive. It doesn't matter, even if they're inhuman monsters. She reached toward him. You're mine. Long, unnatural limbs emerged from the darkness and wrapped around Aoi with unsettling tenderness, as though claiming him as something that already belonged to her. I have to take care of you. Aoi could barely breathe. Monsters? He whispered. Miyako leaned close enough that he could feel her breath against his skin. Do you know how often they've watched you? She gestured toward the shattered windows. Outside, grotesque figures lurked in the darkness. Skeletal hands clung to broken glass while countless glowing eyes stared into the classroom. The stalkers following you. People usually call them yokai or specters. One after another, horrifying supernatural beings revealed themselves, crawling across the windows with unnatural movements. But it makes no difference to me. To Miyako, they were nothing more than obstacles. I'll kill anyone that's an obstacle to my love. There wasn't the slightest hesitation in her voice. She lifted the mangled body of one of the monsters as though presenting proof of her devotion. I can protect you. Her tone softened once again. But let me ask you. She stepped closer until there was almost no distance between them. That woman, or me? Which of us would you rather have survive? Silence swallowed the room. Aoi's heartbeat pounded painfully inside his chest. Am I being threatened? He quickly realized there was no correct answer. If I want to live, I have no choice but to accept this lunatic. Cold sweat trickled down his face as despair overtook him. In a situation like this, no one would want to die. His voice cracked. Please. He looked directly into Miyako's eyes. Please save me. I don't want to die. For a brief instant, Miyako's terrifying smile disappeared. Aw, she giggled softly, almost affectionately. Don't make such a tempting face. The murderous obsession faded from her expression, replaced by an almost loving tenderness. I'm sorry for teasing you. Don't worry. Before Aoi could respond, the room trembled violently. The grotesque creature lunged once more. Without the slightest hesitation, Miyako stepped between Aoi and the monster. I'm here to protect you. The creature shrieked. Its grotesque limbs twisted violently as if it had suddenly encountered a predator far beyond its understanding. Aoi watched in stunned disbelief. Miyako didn't flinch. She simply stood there, calm and composed, meeting the monster's gaze with frightening confidence. The creature recoiled. What the hell are you? For the first time, the monster sounded terrified. Aoi-kun? She whispered gently. Miyako slowly turned back toward him. Do you know of the escorting wolf? Then everything ended. The battle lasted only an instant. Unable to decide whether the girl standing before him was his savior or something even more terrifying than the monster she had destroyed, the classroom became eerily quiet once again. It's over. Aoi-kun, you're safe now. Look, the nightmare was over. At least, the first one was. Aoi lowered his head. His trembling refused to stop. Am I really okay with this? Miyako slowly knelt beside him. You're okay with me, right? There was no threat in her voice, only hope. After everything he had witnessed, Aoi answered honestly. Of course. It's better than dying. The words escaped before he could stop himself. Miyako's expression instantly brightened. I can't help it. I love you so much. Her confession echoed throughout the ruined classroom. There was no hesitation, no shame, only absolute devotion. If it's for Aoi-kun, I would do anything. She placed a hand over her chest, trying to calm emotions that had grown far beyond reason. But now, I want to be with you more. Aoi's heartbeat quickened. Her affection felt sincere, yet disturbingly intense. I have to put up with her, he thought nervously. Without warning, Miyako wrapped both arms around him. Hey, Aoi instinctively tried to pull away. She hugged him even tighter. Also, if I let go, you'll be in danger again. Get off of me. But I'm just so happy. Despite the blood covering her clothes and the corpses scattered around them, Miyako smiled with pure happiness. Then her cheerful expression faded. Her voice became quiet. Can you see them? Aoi slowly turned toward the shattered classroom windows. His blood froze. Outside, they were watching. Countless figures stood beyond the broken glass. Some had no faces. Some smiled with unnaturally wide mouths. Others were little more than living shadows with glowing eyes. Towering monsters, distorted spirits, and things that defied description crowded the darkness beyond the school. None of them moved. They simply watched. Miyako remained perfectly calm. Did you really think there was only one that had their eye on you? Those words shattered what little comfort Aoi had found. The monster she had just defeated had merely been the beginning. Miyako rested her head against Aoi's shoulder and let out a peaceful sigh. A blissful smile spread across her face. It's like I'm dreaming. While Aoi remained frozen between relief and terror, surrounded by unimaginable horrors and unanswered mysteries, Miyako held him close, as though she had finally found the person she had been searching for all along. Aoi found himself standing in the same nightmare once again. A blood-soaked hand slowly reached toward him from the floor. It's that dream again. His chest tightened as an overwhelming sense of dread washed over him. This is the worst. I have to wake up. No matter how desperately he struggled, his body refused to move. His thoughts became frantic. Come on! Get up! Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. Good morning. A familiar voice greeted him the instant he awoke. Aoi's heart nearly stopped. Sitting beside his bed, smiling warmly as if nothing unusual had happened, was Miyako. Wake up! For a brief moment, Aoi wondered if he had actually escaped. Am I still dreaming? Miyako tilted her head, her smile never fading. If you're still tired, you can go back to sleep. The room felt painfully ordinary. Sunlight poured through the window, yet the memory of the blood-soaked classroom lingered so vividly that reality itself felt suspicious. Aoi abruptly sat upright, making the bed creak loudly. He stared at her in disbelief. Miyako, his voice shook. You're finally awake? She asked happily. Aoi immediately demanded, Why are you here? Rather than looking offended, Miyako seemed delighted by the question. I told you, didn't I? I'll stay by your side. She blushed faintly before tugging at the oversized hoodie she was wearing. Oh, I also borrowed your clothes. Only then did Aoi realize what she meant. She was wearing his hoodie. His face stiffened. His mind raced. How did she get in? How long has she been here? Miyako wandered casually toward the tiny kitchen as though she belonged there. Your mom is at work? I'll have to give my greetings later. She said it with complete sincerity. Aoi felt another chill run down his spine. She knew his mother's schedule. Before he could ask another question, she lifted the lid from a pan. I made breakfast for you. The smell of freshly cooked food filled the apartment. To anyone else, it might have looked like a caring girlfriend preparing breakfast. To Aoi, it was terrifying. I have to get away. His eyes darted toward the apartment door. Without another word, he quietly reached for the doorknob. The instant his hand touched it, a cold voice echoed behind him. Don't do that. Aoi froze. Something moved beyond the front door. Slowly, a gray, decayed hand pushed through the narrow gap of the doorway. Its impossibly long fingers curled inward as though trying to reach him. Aoi stumbled backward in horror. His breathing became ragged. Miyako glanced toward the door with surprising calm. You'll be taken away. As if she were commenting on the weather. Seeing Aoi's terrified face, she gently added, But don't worry. The creature's hand remained perfectly still. It's been there a while. Aoi's blood ran cold. It had been waiting outside his apartment the entire time. Miyako's expression suddenly changed. The warmth vanished from her face. She slowly turned toward the unseen thing beyond the doorway. Her voice became frighteningly cold. If you keep bothering us, I will slaughter you. A loud snap. The unseen creature instantly withdrew. Silence returned. Aoi cautiously looked back toward the entrance. Looks like it ran off. Miyako smiled sweetly again, as if nothing unusual had happened. The contrast between her gentle expression and the merciless threat she had just made left Aoi speechless. This really is a nightmare. He couldn't tell which frightened him more, the monsters stalking him or the girl protecting him. Miyako clasped her hands together with an innocent smile. Let's have breakfast, shall we? As if they were simply an ordinary couple beginning another peaceful morning. The smell of freshly cooked rice should have been comforting. Steaming white rice, rolled omelet, miso soup, soy sauce carefully placed beside the chopsticks. Everything on the table looked painfully ordinary. That was what terrified Aoi the most. His nightmare hadn't ended. It had simply learned how to smile. Miyako tilted her head. Aoi-kun. Her voice was sweet enough to melt away anyone's fear. Instead, it tightened around his throat. Miyako leaned across the table. Don't you like rolled omelets? Aoi froze. How could she know that? His favorite breakfast. His mother only made it on special mornings. Why do you know that? Rather than answer, she smiled. I'll also be making your bento. The words landed like chains quietly locking around his future. So tell me if there's something you want to eat. I'll make anything for you. Anything. The promise sounded less like affection and more like ownership. Aoi glanced down at the food. His fingers tightened around the chopsticks. Did she poison it? Mix in something supernatural? Or was she simply waiting for him to lower his guard? His stomach twisted, yet every bite tasted normal. Miyako watched him with quiet fascination. How is it? Silence. She smiled anyway. Glad to hear that. She never touched her own food, only watched him eat. Are you not going to eat? She looked down at the untouched breakfast. I'm not very hungry. The answer was too simple. Aoi remembered what she had confessed the previous night. You said you're an escorting wolf. Is that why? She slowly nodded. That might be why. I'm not so sure myself. Even she didn't understand her own existence. Aoi questioned the creature sitting across from him. If you want me to trust you, tell me everything. He looked directly into her visible eye. So what are you? And why do your kind want to eat me? The smile faded from Miyako's face, not into anger, into sadness. I told you. People call us spirits, urban legends. She stirred the untouched soup with absent-minded movements. But all we know is that we're merely remnants of what we once were. Her voice carried centuries of loneliness, as if our memories were stolen. We don't know where we came from. Actually, I thought you might know something about our origins. Aui's heartbeat stumbled. Why him? Why did every nightmare, every vision, every impossible coincidence point back to him? I don't know anything. He stood. I don't know. He walked away before she could ask another question. Aoi-kun. Her voice came from behind him. Too close. Far too close. He turned, and she was already standing behind him. Her face hovered beside his shoulder. Her warm breath brushed against his ear. One enormous eye stared into his. Are you hiding something? The room dissolved. Darkness flooded his vision. Blood, a severed hand, a smiling corpse dragging itself across wooden floorboards. A voice echoed through the abyss. Even after all this time, you never change. You really are a thief. The memory struck like lightning. Shut up, Aoi exploded. The dining table crashed sideways. Bowls shattered across the floor. He tackled Miyako onto the wooden boards, pinning her beneath him. The chopsticks in his hand trembled like tiny daggers. His face twisted with terror and rage. Stop prying into me. His voice cracked. His entire body shook. Not with hatred, with fear. Miyako didn't resist. She simply looked up at him. The corner of her lips curved into the faintest smile. If you keep asking, I'll kill you. Silence. Miyako blinked. You'll kill me? She smiled even brighter. That's fine. His eyes widened. I'm serious. As long as it makes you feel better, she gently wrapped her fingers around his trembling wrist. I hope my death becomes something you'll remember for the rest of your life. The words weren't cruel, they were sincere. She meant every syllable. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of leaving him alone. She slowly reached up. Her fingertips brushed his cheek. If it's for you, I'll do anything. Her face was only inches away now, close enough that he could feel her warm breath, close enough to mistake tenderness for obsession. The atmosphere became almost intimate. Yet beneath it lingered something deeply unnatural, like being embraced by a ghost wearing the face of a beautiful girl. Aoi's grip weakened. His breathing became uneven. His eyes trembled. He couldn't tell whether he wanted to push her away or collapse into her arms. Miyako gently cradled his head against her chest. Her heartbeat was impossibly calm. It's okay. Even if you have an unspeakable past, I would never reject you. I could never hate you. She held him tighter. As long as I'm here, you'll never have to be alone. The words should have comforted him. Instead, they sounded like a life sentence. After a long silence, Aoi whispered, Don't follow me anymore. For the first time, Miyako looked genuinely disappointed. Then, I'll wait here until school ends. Aoi stood several paces away from Miyako, his shoulders tense. The warmth she'd shown him inside the house had only deepened his suspicion. No matter how gently she smiled, something about her presence refused to feel human. Miyako, he met her gaze with cold resolve. Don't ever try to test me again. His voice was sharp enough to cut through the silence. And don't get the wrong idea. There wasn't even a trace of hesitation. You're still just a stalker to me. The words struck harder than any blow. For a moment, neither of them moved. Only the breeze stirred the trees overhead. Then, Miyako smiled. Not a smile of heartbreak, not one of resentment, a smile of complete acceptance. I understand. Her fingers folded over her chest as if she were making a solemn vow. But if something were to happen, I'll definitely come to protect you. There was no doubt in her voice, only unwavering devotion. So, it'd be okay for me to stay by your side, right? Aoi answered only with silence. He adjusted the strap of his backpack. I have to go now. Without another glance, he turned and walked away. Miyako remained where she stood, watching until he disappeared down the road. Have a safe trip. Her farewell was soft, gentle, almost loving. Then something changed. A tiny laugh escaped her lips. Ha! Another followed. Ha! Her breathing grew heavier. Ha! Her shoulders trembled. Her smile widened unnaturally, as though invisible hands were pulling at the corners of her mouth. Her heartbeat thundered inside her chest. So tempting! She wrapped her arms around herself, desperately trying to suppress the violent craving swelling inside her. Even when he gets angry, a shiver raced down her spine. Drool slipped from between her lips. Her pupils shrank, want to eat him up. Her fingernails dug into her own skin. Every instinct screamed at her to chase him, to sink her teeth into him, to devour him. Yet, she endured, barely. Then, something else drifted through the wind, a scent. Her breathing stopped. Slowly, she turned toward the school standing beyond the fence. It smells. Her eyes widened, like one of them. Elsewhere, inside an empty classroom washed in pale afternoon light, a lone figure sat motionless. Long black hair concealed their face. A single horn emerged from beneath the tangled strands. Without lifting their head, they listened to the distant sounds outside. It's gotten noisy. The voice was calm, almost detached, as though they had witnessed this countless times before. After a long silence, they whispered words that felt less like a prediction and more like a prophecy. Once again. August 9th approaches. The heat of early August hung heavily over the school grounds, but Miyako barely noticed. Her bandaged hand rested against the chain-link fence, fingertips tracing the cold metal as though listening to something hidden beneath its surface. She closed her eyes. One of them is here. A faint smile tugged at her lips. She slowly searched the windows of the school building. Where? Where is she? The answer refused to come. Instead, an unfamiliar scent drifted through the summer air, a scent that made the monster sleeping beneath her gentle smile stir with anticipation. Where are you? Inside the school, the atmosphere was no less unsettling. Students gathered in small groups, whispering excitedly. Aoi paused as fragments of conversation reached his ears. Huh? Ueda-san isn't here today? You haven't heard? She's transferring schools. He blinked. Transferring? Only yesterday she had been sitting in class. Now, she had vanished. So suddenly? I don't know the details. I heard her whole family moved away. So she's really gone? Aoi's grip tightened around his pencil. Someone mentioned another name. Wouldn't Sakurai know? He was with her yesterday. You should ask him. No thanks. I'd rather not. That guy's kind of creepy. The words barely registered. Instead, something colder settled inside his chest. The classroom buzzed with meaningless chatter. They sure talk a lot, Aoi thought. If they knew what truly lurked in the shadows, if they understood what Miyako really was, they would dismiss it as nonsense. Or perhaps they would simply become the next victims. His imagination betrayed him. For a split second, reality fractured. The classroom transformed into a slaughterhouse. Desks overturned, walls splattered crimson, broken bodies littered the floor. At the center of the carnage sat Miyako, smiling serenely as if enjoying a peaceful afternoon. Blood dripped from her clothes. Her voice echoed sweetly through the nightmare. Praise me. The vision disappeared. Aoi rubbed his temples. Or something ridiculous like that. Then another student called from the hallway. Hey, what's happening over there? At the school gate, there are a bunch of people gathering. Aoi frowned. What are they doing? Something inside him screamed. Run. He hurried downstairs. Outside, dozens of students surrounded someone standing near the entrance. Whispers floated through the crowd. Could she be the girl everyone's talking about? She's prettier than I expected. She's actually kind of cute. Dude, you've got terrible taste. Then the crowd parted. There she stood. Miyako. Her long hair concealed one eye while the other searched only for him. Her cheeks carried a faint blush. Her smile looked almost innocent. She clasped her bandaged hands together. Aoi-kun. I've been looking for something. The words sounded harmless. Yet Aoi felt an icy shiver crawl across his spine. Around him, more whispers spread. Isn't that Sakurai's stalker? Seriously, what is she doing here? He swallowed hard. What is she planning now? Rumors spread faster than wildfire. That's why Ueda transferred. That's what she told everyone. I heard the same thing happened at Sakurai's previous school. Maybe that's why she's following him. No one really knows. Every retelling twisted the truth a little more. Until lies became facts, until Miyako became less of a person and more of an urban legend. A dreadful thought surfaced inside Aoi's mind. If everyone already believes she's dangerous, if I simply admit I'm another victim, maybe they'll finally leave me alone. He imagined saying it aloud. I'm in the same situation as Ueda. I stayed quiet because I was afraid. That should explain everything. I'm a victim too. It won't hurt. The idea disgusted him. He hated himself for considering it, yet fear had a way of making cowardice sound reasonable. Before he could speak, a soft voice interrupted the silence. Every head turned. Miyako stepped forward. Her expression remained strangely calm. I did it. The crowd froze. No one understood. No one dared interrupt. Then she tilted her head with an almost childlike innocence. That girl? Ueda? I got rid of her. Silence crushed the schoolyard. Some students laughed nervously, others stared in disbelief. So it's true then. Aoi slowed his pace, confusion clouding his expression. More students arrived. No one knew the truth. No one cared to learn it. The rumors alone were enough. Poor Ueda-san. Despicable. I bet she's done worse. The words multiplied until they became a chorus. A public execution without a trial. Miyako stood alone. Long silver hair swayed gently in the wind while dozens of hateful eyes bore into her. Plastic bottles, crushed cans, bits of trash. One after another, they flew toward her. The crowd laughed. The first bottle struck. Another followed. Then another. What is happening? Aoi could hardly recognize his classmates anymore. Their faces twisted into expressions that no longer looked human. They're going too far with this. Yet nobody stepped in. Fear had become entertainment. Hatred had become justice. Miyako remained perfectly calm. Of course it would turn out like this, even though it'd only make her look bad. Someone shouted, "Get the hell out of here!" Another screamed, "Did you think we'd forgive you?" The accusations came endlessly. She listened, accepted them, then quietly smiled. "I honestly don't care." Silence swept across the courtyard. My position, my body, everything. I could throw it all away. Her voice never shook. I don't have a single regret. Then, she looked only at Aoi. Nothing else existed. Nothing else matters. As long as I can be with the person I love. The confession was beautiful. It was also terrifying. The crowd recoiled. Then disgust replaced their fear. Gross. A rock suddenly shot through the air. Crack! The stone slammed directly into Aoi's face. Blood erupted across his eye. His vision exploded into darkness. He staggered backward. Miyako gasped. Ah! Blood streamed down Aoi's face. His right eye refused to open. Pain clouded his thoughts. Someone ran toward him. Aoi-kun! The hell are you trying to do? He wiped blood from his lips. Does it matter? His remaining eye glared at everyone surrounding him. Like you guys would understand. Dumbasses. There was nothing left to explain. No one here wanted answers. They only wanted someone to hate. Then, Miyako embraced him, tightly, as if afraid the world would steal him away. The moment their bodies touched, reality cracked. Something burst from behind her. Dozens of pale tendrils unfurled like living ribbons. They writhed through the air with impossible grace. They resembled vines or long skeletal fingers. The ground trembled. The air grew heavy. Students screamed. Some stumbled backward. Others fell to the ground. The supernatural limbs lashed through the courtyard, not to kill, only to warn. The flying bottles were knocked aside. The stones shattered before reaching them. The mob scattered in terror. Just moments ago, they had acted brave. Now, they ran from the true horror standing before them. Eventually, silence returned. Looks like the bleeding has stopped. Shut up. Miyako carefully supported Aoi beneath the shade of a tree. For the first time, only concern remained. What did you come here for? The creature I chased off this morning was here. She blended in with the other students. But I already remembered her face. I'll deal with her right away. Then, his shoulders shook. I can't go to school anymore. The words carried more pain than his injuries. Without hesitation, Miyako hugged him again. If that's true, then we can be together even more. I'm not kidding. Get off of me. She giggled softly. Aoi-kun, you were really cool. No one, not his classmates, not his teachers, not even his own family, had ever spoken to him like that. His voice cracked. Even my mom has never said that for me. Tears rolled down his blood-stained face. Why? Why did you say that? Miyako blinked, then laughed quietly. Oh, I see. She understood completely. The corners of her lips curled into an unsettling smile. Her cheeks flushed. A thin strand of saliva escaped as her breathing grew heavier. There was something disturbingly intimate about the way she looked at him. Not merely affection, not simple obsession. It resembled the devotion of a monster that had finally found the one soul it wished to keep forever. Her voice became little more than a whisper. Don't rile me up. Hidden beyond the fence, a lone figure silently watched. Their face remained concealed beneath deep shadow, as if another supernatural being had witnessed everything. The house visit. A faint knock echoed through the apartment. Aoi-kun? The familiar voice drifted through the closed sliding door, gentle enough to sound reassuring. Yet to Aoi, it felt like another crack in the fragile wall he had built around himself. He stayed perfectly still, clenching his fists as if silence alone could make the visitor disappear. Why won't you open the door? It's me. The words should have brought comfort. Instead, they only deepened the knot of anxiety twisting in his stomach. A house visit? She asked. Aoi looked away. My homeroom teacher is coming to check up on me, because I haven't been going to school. I didn't tell my mom anything either. Miyako quietly absorbed his confession. The apartment fell silent. Miyako understood the situation almost immediately. If you're here when the teacher arrives, it'll only cause more trouble. So, in the meantime, don't come inside. It won't take long. But Aoi couldn't hide the fear in his voice. But if she's a monster, then you'll be the one in danger. Miyako blinked. If that happens, he continued hesitantly, you'll come protect me. The request hung awkwardly between them. I know I might be asking for too much. He forced an uneasy smile. Right? For a brief moment, Miyako's expression softened. Deep inside, she convinced herself that this much should still be acceptable. After all, it was for Aoi. Without another word, she smiled brightly. Of course. No matter what, I'll protect you. Those words struck Aoi harder than he expected. She stepped closer, lowering her voice until only he could hear. So, from now on, no matter what happens, even if nothing happens. Her lips curved into a strangely affectionate smile. Call only for me, okay? Something changed. The warmth in Miyako's eyes slowly melted into something darker, something almost obsessive. She leaned in so close that Aoi could hear her breathing. Sooner or later, the day will come when you won't have to open the door for me. Her smile never faded. A chill raced down Aoi's spine. She whispered again, try calling for me. Aoi's instincts screamed that something was terribly wrong. Still smiling, Miyako tilted her head. I wonder, how would you call for me? Her face was inches from his. Then her expression sharpened. Your teacher isn't here yet. Let go of him. The sudden shout shattered the suffocating atmosphere. The apartment door burst open. A woman wearing glasses hurried inside, breathing heavily. Please, let go of my student. The newcomer quickly turned toward Aoi. I'm here to help you now. Aoi immediately panicked. Wait, it's not. But before he could explain, the teacher confidently reassured him. Just hold on, Sakurai-kun. The misunderstanding only grew larger. Moments later, the room became painfully quiet. I really am sorry about that. An awkward silence settled over everyone. The teacher straightened herself and bowed politely. I am Sakurai Aoi-kun's homeroom teacher, Ushimi. She rubbed her cheek in embarrassment. I tend to lose sight of my surroundings when I get agitated. Neither Aoi nor Miyako replied. The silence was almost unbearable. Finally, the teacher looked toward Miyako. I'm very sorry about earlier, Miyako-san. I didn't know you were his relative. Neither Aoi nor Miyako corrected her assumption. The teacher cleared her throat. Well then, I hope you don't mind if your guardian is present for this. The room fell into an uneasy silence. Miyako stood motionless, her expression unreadable. For the first time since she had arrived, she offered no response at all. Aoi watched her carefully. So, Sensei isn't a monster after all. The realization eased the pressure squeezing his chest. That's a bit of a relief, but relief only created another problem. Now what? He wasn't used to ordinary people. The monsters had become predictable. Humans were far more difficult. I don't know how to talk to non-threatening people. As if sensing his discomfort, Ushimi awkwardly smiled and reached into the bag she'd brought. By the way, I brought a gift. She carefully placed a small container on the table. Cookies. She opened the lid to reveal a row of homemade treats. I baked them myself. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Would you like to have some? Aoi stared at them in silence. The teacher nervously rubbed her face. It was my first time making them, so I'm a little nervous. She laughed softly, but I still tried my best. The room felt strangely warm. Unlike Miyako's intense devotion, Ushimi's kindness was awkward, clumsy, painfully human. She smiled shyly. Because I want to get along with you, Sakurai-kun. Aoi lowered his eyes. Truth be told, he'd spent so long shutting himself away that speaking to anyone felt terrifying. I'm still scared of talking to people. He slowly reached toward the container. I'll have one. The teacher's shoulders visibly relaxed. Please do. The moment Aoi took a bite, he unconsciously smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a tiny one, but Miyako noticed it immediately. She leaned close enough to study every subtle change in his face. What a content expression. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Then her smile slowly faded. You didn't look like this for me. The words were barely louder than a whisper, yet they carried a jealousy that chilled the room. Aokun, her voice wrapped around him. Aoi nearly choked on the cookie. Before Miyako could continue, Ushimi hurriedly interrupted. It's fine if you eat it later. Trying to ease the awkwardness, she added, you can keep the container too. Miyako's eyes never left Aoi. Okay? Feeling trapped between them, Aoi forced an answer. Sure, I'll try them later then. Yeah, no one truly believed that was the end of the matter. The atmosphere shifted once again. Ushimi straightened herself. Anyway, Sakurai-kun, let me ask you. Aoi looked up. When are you going back to school? Everyone is waiting for you. What? The words sounded almost absurd. They should all be aware of your circumstances now. I had a talk with everyone in class about you. Even Miyako quietly listened. Surely they'll understand once you clear up the misunderstanding about Miyako-san. Something inside Aoi snapped. They're honestly really good kids. Bullshit. The single word froze the room. Ushimi blinked. Excuse me? Aoi's voice grew colder. Those guys spread rumors. They even threw rocks at another person. And you're telling me they suddenly changed? Just because you scolded them? His breathing grew heavier. No fucking way. The anger he'd buried for months erupted all at once. Sakurai-kun, Ushimi's voice softened. She looked directly into his frightened eyes. Don't you believe me? Something in her expression changed. Not threatening, not forceful, simply unwavering. I wouldn't lie to you. Aoi suddenly felt dizzy. What? Her voice no longer sounded like ordinary speech. It echoed inside his mind. If you're starting over, you're gonna have to change. The words repeated again and again. Her voice, it wasn't simply reaching his ears anymore. It's echoing inside my head. Sakurai-kun is a good boy. The phrase replayed over and over, almost like a hypnotic chant. Across the table, Ushimi smiled gently. My Aoi-kun is a good boy. I feel like I should listen to what she tells me. The thought wasn't his. Or perhaps he wasn't sure anymore. She rested her hand lightly on the table and asked almost tenderly, Isn't that right? Aoi's heartbeat thundered in his ears. For reasons he couldn't explain, fear overwhelmed him. The room had fallen unnaturally silent. Aoi felt Ushimi's slender fingers slide over the back of his hand. Her touch was gentle, almost affectionate, yet it carried a suffocating possessiveness. She leaned closer, her glasses catching the kitchen light as a soft smile spread across her lips. My Aoi-kun. Her voice was sweet enough to melt his defenses. You belong to me, right? For a heartbeat, Aoi's mind went blank. Then another thought fought its way to the surface. No. Something inside him screamed that this was wrong. This isn't right. As if answering that desperate thought, another voice echoed from somewhere deep within his consciousness. Save me, Miyako. Long strands of pale hair swept across the room before Miyako appeared beside Aoi, like a phantom materializing from another world. Her silver eye narrowed. A strange smile curled across her lips. What is it? She tilted her head toward Ushimi. My Aoi-kun. The possessive words dripped with quiet menace. The invisible pressure suddenly vanished. Ushimi blinked. The unsettling spiral in her eyes disappeared behind her glasses. She pressed her palms together apologetically. I'm so sorry. I just lost myself for a second there. An embarrassed laugh escaped her. Let's leave it at that for today. Her tone sounded perfectly normal. Too normal. Yet Aoi couldn't calm the pounding in his chest. The words echoed again and again. If you're starting over, you're gonna have to change. Sakurai-kun is a good boy. My Aoi-kun. They no longer sounded like memories. They sounded like commands whispered directly into his soul. Night settled over the apartment. The ticking clock grew louder with every passing second. Aoi sat alone on his bed. Miyako? Silence. Miyako, are you there? Aoi swallowed. Can I trust you? Miyako turned and began walking. The corridor felt endless. The smell of fresh blood hung heavily in the air. A young girl sat slumped against a concrete pillar. Her school uniform was soaked crimson. A massive hole had been torn straight through her chest, leaving only darkness where her heart should have been. Black blood stained the wall behind her like ink spilled by something inhuman. Miyako merely looked at the corpse, expressionless, studying it. This afternoon, she finally murmured, you didn't have their scent. Her gaze lifted into the darkness ahead. Before I kill you. Her voice became chillingly calm. Tell me. A familiar figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Ushimi. Her sweater was splattered with blood. Her glasses sat crooked across her face. One eye twisted into an impossible spiral while blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. She smiled, a grotesque, delighted smile. "What are you?" The question hung between them. Neither woman moved. Neither blinked. Miyako's voice sliced through the silence. "Manipulating the students." "Was that your doing?" Ushimi shrugged casually. "Who knows? There were a lot of them within the school." Miyako's lone visible eye never left her. "Don't lie. There were only you two." Ushimi laughed, a laugh that echoed unnaturally through the corridor. "So, you don't know anything?" The abandoned school had become unnaturally silent. Broken lights swayed above the empty corridors, casting restless shadows that seemed to breathe with every flicker. Ordinary people, she explained, could never perceive beings like them. Their existence was hidden behind coincidences, strange accidents, whispered rumors, and unexplained phenomena. Only those who had lost control, or those who willingly revealed themselves, could ever be seen. She admitted she had shown herself earlier on purpose. Miyako's eyes narrowed. Ushimi only laughed. She hadn't needed to use any supernatural power against someone as insignificant as Miyako. The insult hung in the darkness like poison. Miyako answered with a dismissive scoff. "Whatever." Miyako declared that she would simply continue doing what she always had. "If that's the case," she thought, "I'll erase every obstacle standing between me and him." Her smile widened. "I only have to get rid of everything." The words echoed through the empty hall. Ushimi stared at her with pity. "You are not suitable for him." The words struck like a curse. Miyako frowned. Ushimi continued. "That boy needs someone like me. Someone who could educate him. Someone who could carefully watch over him. Someone who could teach him everything. Someone who could raise him properly." Her voice grew softer with every sentence, becoming disturbingly intimate, as though she were describing the future she intended to claim. Blood dripped from her fingertips while an ecstatic smile spread across her face. "I can't help looking forward to it." She imagined molding Aoi's mind, training his body, guiding every decision he would ever make, until he won't be able to do anything without me. The confession wasn't spoken like love. It sounded like worship twisted into obsession. What are you even talking about? Suitable? Training? None of it made sense. The distance between them disappeared. Miyako stepped forward until their faces were only inches apart. "You speak as if you're human." For the first time, Ushimi smiled without pretending. "None of that matters." Then the smile on Miyako's face changed. Her lips stretched far wider than any human mouth should. Her pupils spiraled. Bones cracked beneath her skin. "My love is more than enough for him." The hallway itself seemed to recoil. Ushimi slowly turned away. "Do you really believe my words are meaningless?" Her long black hair floated as though underwater. "You don't even realize what I am." Every step she took echoed with impossible weight. For countless centuries, her words had been treated as divine law. Kings, priests, warriors, entire villages had trembled simply because she had spoken. Her voice became a whisper that seemed to emerge from every shadow. Throughout the ages, my words, and my very presence, were regarded with reverence by everyone. She looked directly into Miyako's eye. "And now, I shall bestow upon you a prophecy." Her spiraling eyes locked onto Miyako. "A prediction of your death." The darkness exploded. Ushimi's body twisted violently. Her fingers elongated into claws. Her elegant smile transformed into the horrifying grin of an ancient yokai. "For I am an Ushi-onna." Miyako's rage finally erupted. The last thread restraining her snapped as the monstrous power consuming her body swallowed every trace of hesitation. Her face twisted into something no longer entirely human, one eye burning with murderous intent while jagged fangs tore through her cheek. Without another thought, she hurled herself straight at the grotesque Ushimi. "I don't care! Die!" Then, a cold, mocking voice whispered through the silence. "How foolish! I warned you, didn't I?" Before Miyako could recover, a crushing force seized her. Ushimi had never intended to face her head-on. Its voice carried the calm confidence of a predator that had already won. "Your death has been assured." Her body froze as the truth unfolded before her. She had been charging at nothing more than another step in Ushimi's carefully prepared trap. The monster watched her struggle with a cruel smile before revealing its scheme. "Did you really think that I would fight someone like you directly?" Its words dripped with contempt. I said to the girl that if she cooperated with me, I would save her life. For a fleeting moment, those words almost sounded sincere. Then the monster's grin widened into something horrifying. Of course, I killed her afterward. The confession echoed through the blood-soaked room like a curse. The promise had never been real. An innocent girl had been manipulated with false hope. Ushimi slowly tilted its head, its expression almost amused by its own cruelty. This is how a rational animal survives. Isn't that right, Miyako-san? A hollow laugh escaped its lips. Ha ha! Even with death looming over her, Miyako refused to look away. Blood stained her trembling body, but the fire in her eyes never faded. She continued staring back at the monster with quiet defiance, refusing to surrender the last fragments of her dignity. Lecturing me to the very end. That unwavering resolve only irritated Ushimi. When it comes to the person you love, her eyes shimmered with dangerous emotion. How could you ever leave room for reason? A smile of twisted bliss spread across her face. Just thinking about it fills me with overwhelming emotion. Her confession sounded almost romantic, and now a shiver ran through her body. I just have to let it out, like a predator finally surrendering to its true nature. Moments later, silence returned. The battle had reached its conclusion. Ushimi collapsed onto the broken pavement, blood spreading beneath her. She laughed quietly despite her defeat. What a shame. It seems I was no match for a beast. Miyako slowly approached. There won't be a next time. Her voice echoed through the empty streets. I'll end you right here. Ushimi smiled faintly. Perhaps, but we'll meet again. Her crimson eyes gleamed one last time. In this world, the certainty in her voice sent chills through the air. Death was not the end, not for beings like her. Next time, I'll make sure of it. As life slowly faded from her body, Ushimi offered Miyako one final gift. Or perhaps one final curse. Let me leave you with a prophecy. She smiled peacefully. An Ushi-Ona's blessing. There is another poison in this city. The monster's grin returned, colder than before, and the disaster that follows will remain unknown to everyone. Ushimi slowly turned away. I tire of explaining. But know this. You are to blame for everything. Those words pierced Miyako more deeply than any wound. The guilt, the manipulation, the deaths. It wanted her to shoulder all of it. Then the monster's eyes softened with a twisted sort of affection. Miyako. A pause lingered between them. Or should I say, its smile widened into something both seductive and horrifying. What once was Miyako? Those words marked the end of the nightmare. Or so it seemed. A quiet country road stretched beneath the summer sky. A young man stood on the bridge while a woman dressed in white faced him with a gentle smile. I see. So you're leaving this town tomorrow? Yes. The woman lowered her gaze for a moment. What a shame. I was almost there. The young man blinked in confusion. Huh? She immediately smiled again, as if nothing had happened. Oh, it's nothing. Don't worry. But something in her voice felt strangely lonely. I'm going to be very lonely by myself. She stepped a little closer, close enough for the breeze to carry the faint scent of flowers from her hair. That's why. No matter how many years pass, her smile never reached her eyes. I'll find you no matter what. And then, the words hung unfinished in the air. Aoi's eyes suddenly snapped open. His breathing was uneven, as fragments of a distant memory slipped through his mind like pieces of a forgotten nightmare. I had a dream about a memory from a long time ago. The images were already fading. Faces, a woman, a bridge. None of it made sense anymore. He rubbed his eyes and slowly sat up. I think I managed to sleep so well. Since everything was so quiet, for the first time in what felt like forever, the oppressive silence around the house felt almost peaceful. Then he noticed someone sitting quietly beside the bed. Miyako. She was covered in scratches and bruises, her torn clothes revealing the countless injuries she had suffered. Her long blonde hair fell over her face as she sat motionless against the wall, as though she had spent the entire night watching over him. Miyako. She slowly lifted her head. Did you get in a fight yesterday? There was no answer. Instead, she quietly called his name. Ao-kun. The familiar nickname made him freeze. His face flushed bright red. Miyako let out a sleepy little sound. Then another soft breath escaped her lips. Ah! The awkward silence that followed became almost unbearable. Unable to look at her any longer, Aoi hastily stood from the bed. I should go eat lunch. He practically fled the room, his heart pounding for an entirely different reason. Standing alone in the kitchen, Aoi searched for something to eat. It didn't take long to realize there was almost nothing prepared. It can't be helped. My mom is extremely busy after all. For today's lunch, he glanced toward the front door. There should be a lot of people outside. After a moment of thought, he came to a simple conclusion. No choice. I'll have to ask her to go to the nearest convenience store. Turning back toward the hallway, he called out, "Mia." Before he could finish calling her name, a soft laugh drifted from upstairs. Aokun, his cheeks instantly flushed. Even after everything they had survived together, hearing Miyako say his name with such warmth made his heart skip a beat. He stood there speechless. Then came the sharp click of his tongue. If she stepped outside in her torn clothes and bruised body, the neighbors would never leave them alone. If the neighbors see you like that, it would be problematic. After a short silence, Miyako obediently nodded. Fine. Minutes later, Aoi stepped into the busy streets alone. The afternoon sun illuminated rows of apartments, bicycles, and people casually going about their lives. He inhaled deeply. It's fine. Everything's fine. Everyone here is human. His eyes wandered across strangers chatting, children laughing, and office workers passing by. But even then, his chest tightened. It's not. The certainty he'd tried so desperately to convince himself of shattered without warning. Nearby, several students laughed as they walked home. That never happened. Man, you seriously don't know when to give up. Aoi instinctively ducked behind a wall. Only then did he realize why the streets felt so crowded. I forgot. They come back from school at this hour. Relief washed over him. I'm so glad they aren't from my class. No one recognized him. No one knew what had happened, or so he hoped. As he hurried through a narrow alley, guilt quietly gnawed at him. I shouldn't have left the house. None of this is my fault, yet I have to keep hiding like this. His hands trembled. I've got no choice. I'll have to go to another store. Just as he turned the corner, hey, the voice was quiet, gentle, far too close. Every muscle in Aoi's body froze. The alley grew unnaturally silent. Then dozens of hollow voices echoed together. Come here. He slowly looked up. His blood turned to ice. The walls, the shadows, the darkness itself had become crowded with grotesque figures. Faces hidden beneath torn white cloth. Twisted mouths stretched impossibly wide. Dead eyes stared directly into his soul. One after another, they whispered in perfect unison. Look, another voice answered. Look at us. Aoi stumbled backward. During daytime too, the monsters shouldn't exist beneath the afternoon sun, yet there they were, real. The whispers multiplied. Look at us. Keep looking. Keep looking. Every voice clawed at his mind. The more he looked away, the louder they became. If this goes on... His breathing became ragged. I'll die. Desperately, he thought of only one person. Miyako. Then, a calm, feminine voice cut through the nightmare. Everything will be okay. The monsters fell silent. Save me. Aoi looked up. A woman wearing a wide-brimmed white hat stood between him and the horrors. Her elegant figure radiated a mysterious calm, as though the supernatural itself respected her presence. But I'll have to ask you to close your eyes for a bit. Aoi hesitated. Something about her felt strangely familiar. Relax. I won't take long. Her voice carried an irresistible gentleness. Trusting her, he slowly shut his eyes. Then the woman spoke almost apologetically. I'm just going to quietly take out the trash. The words sounded oddly ordinary, yet behind them came faint sounds of tearing flesh, muffled shrieks, and something heavy being dragged across the pavement. When everything became quiet again, she smiled. All right? Everything is over. You can open your eyes now. Aoi slowly lifted his eyelids. The alley was spotless. The monsters had vanished. Not a single trace remained. The woman stood before him. It's been a while since I've seen your beautiful face. Heat rushed to Aoi's cheeks. He didn't understand why. The stranger tilted her head with genuine concern. Did you lose some weight? Her questions was so intimate that it made his heart race. She spoke as though they had known each other for years. Confused, Aoi searched his memories. Before he could finish her name, I came for you. Huh? The woman suddenly reached toward him. Without warning, she effortlessly lifted him into the air as if he weighed nothing. Aoi flailed in embarrassment. The woman laughed brightly. His protests only seemed to amuse her more. She watched his panicked expression with sparkling eyes before letting out another soft giggle. Aoi could only stare. Finally, placing him back on the ground, the mysterious woman looked at him with eyes overflowing with emotion. Her voice trembled ever so slightly. All those years that I couldn't see you felt like an eternity. She gently clutched her chest. It felt like I was in hell. Her composure began to crumble. I missed you so much. Before Aoi could answer, she suddenly wrapped her arms around him in a desperate embrace, holding him as though letting go would mean losing him forever. The warmth of her body felt painfully real. Yet there was something unsettling about the intensity of her affection. It wasn't the embrace of someone meeting an old friend. It was the embrace of someone who had waded through endless years of loneliness, refusing to let fate separate them again. Miyako's eyes suddenly flew open. Her heart pounded violently as an indescribable dread gripped her soul. Aokun. For reasons she couldn't explain, she knew. Something or someone had found him. Sakurai's past. The abandoned school stood in suffocating silence. Walking side by side through the deserted hallway, Yae suddenly broke the silence. So, is there someone you like right now? The unexpected question made Sakurai stop in his tracks. That I like? His brow furrowed with confusion. Why do you ask? Yae smiled, the corners of her lips lifting with innocent amusement. She admitted she thought someone his age would be more susceptible to romantic feelings. Susceptible? He repeated the unfamiliar word. A soft giggle escaped her lips. That's what they call youth. Her answer sounded playful, yet something in her gentle voice carried an unsettling weight. After a long pause, Sakurai finally answered. I don't. His expression remained cold. I hate everyone. She simply nodded. I see. There was no disappointment in her eyes, no judgment, only quiet understanding. Then he turned to Yae-san. How about you, Yae-san? She blinked innocently. Me? Do you like someone? For a moment, she simply stared at him. Then, a delicate laugh echoed through the empty hallway. Sakurai tilted his head. Huh? What is it? Yae's cheeks gradually turned crimson. Her smile grew softer, warmer, yet strangely more frightening. She gazed at him with unwavering affection. You still don't get it? Sakurai frowned. What do you mean by that? Her smile deepened. You'll understand soon enough. Those words wrapped around him like invisible chains. As Sakurai quietly whispered, Yae, san, fragments of forgotten memories resurfaced. The girl standing before him looked exactly the same, not older, not younger, exactly as she had existed in his childhood. It was as though time itself had abandoned her. Yae lowered her eyes, her voice becoming almost painfully gentle. She admitted they hadn't spent much time together. But to her, those few precious hours had become irreplaceable. Looking back at him, she smiled. It seems that you've changed a lot since then, boy, and I get why. Life had carved painful scars into Sakurai's heart. Loneliness had transformed him into someone who trusted no one. Yet Yae confessed something that made his chest tighten. She had never forgotten him. Not once. Not for a single day. Her words should have sounded romantic. Instead, they carried the terrifying devotion of someone who had spent years clinging to a single memory. She slowly walked ahead, her long hair flowing behind her like a ghost drifting through forgotten halls. Even if they had suddenly parted, she couldn't simply remain where she was. Every passing day, every passing year, only one fear haunted her. What if you forgot me? That thought had become the center of her existence. She admitted it was all she could ever think about. Her love had long since crossed the boundary between affection and obsession. Without warning, she stepped closer. Their faces were separated by only a few inches. Sakurai instinctively held his breath. Yae's cheeks glowed a soft crimson. Her eyes overflowed with affection that bordered on madness. That's why I won't hold back any longer. It wasn't merely a confession. It sounded like a vow. One she intended to keep no matter the cost. Embarrassment flooded Sakurai's face. She laughed quietly. Are you embarrassed? Oh, right. Her smile became almost mischievous. Let's go somewhere without people. Just the two of us. She leaned close enough for her whisper to brush against his ear. To celebrate our fateful reunion. Without looking back, Yae reassured him. Don't worry. Then she smiled. It's not as if a stray dog is going to eat you. The joke should have eased his nerves. Instead, it made him wonder what horrors she considered more dangerous than wild animals. Suddenly, Miyako stopped walking. She closed her eyes. The silence became absolute. She slowly inhaled, like a hunter catching the scent of prey. When she opened her eyes again, something had changed. There's the smell of monster blood, another slow breath, and there's the smell of others too. Her gaze slowly shifted toward the abandoned school building. So you were in the abandoned school building, huh? She stared into the darkness beyond the hallway. Don't you fucking think I'm giving you Aokun. The tension slowly faded as they entered an old warehouse attached to the abandoned school. Yai smiled nostalgically. Back then, we used to play in deserted places like this one. It wasn't anything special, but we had fun. She turned toward Sakurai. So boy, are you having fun? Aoi struggled to answer. I? But before he could find the words, Yae laughed softly. Yae quietly spun beneath the pale light filtering through the broken roof. Her white dress fluttered around her like the robes of a wandering spirit. She laughed with genuine happiness. By the way, I'm having a good time. She closed her eyes, savoring the moment she had dreamed of for years. Her smile widened. I'm having so much fun that I feel like I'm having the time of my life. The words echoed through the empty warehouse. Yae casually wiped the blood from her fingers before continuing. As soon as those idiots found out that Okuri Okami was gone, they all came. She chuckled with complete amusement. So dumb on their part. She glanced at the corpses surrounding them. They're all just incompetent meatheads. Another glance. Seriously. They're all just a bunch of scum. Aoi lowered his head. Well, I'm sure we'll be fine for now. Silence followed. Then the question he had been afraid to ask finally escaped his lips. Yae-san. He lowered his gaze. Were you always a monster? The warehouse became deathly still. For several long seconds, she said nothing. Finally, she turned around. There wasn't anger in her eyes, only uncertainty. Are you disappointed? The question carried an unexpected vulnerability. Aoi looked directly into her face. He remembered every impossible moment she had appeared, every narrow escape, every monster that somehow never reached him. Then he smiled. No. His answer came without hesitation. I'm thankful, actually. Yaoi continued. That explains why I always felt safer whenever I was with you, Yae-san. His voice softened. You were always protecting me. At last, everything made sense. I get that now. For the first time, Yae looked genuinely embarrassed. She turned away, hiding the faint blush coloring her cheeks. I hate to say it. She sighed, but I guess that saves me the trouble of explaining. A quiet laugh escaped her lips. I feel like an idiot for worrying so much about it. Aoi scratched his cheek awkwardly. Well, I guess I'll have to thank Okuri Okami later. Then he paused. But for now, he never finished. Yae suddenly stepped closer, far closer than before. She reached for his hand. Her fingers, still stained with fresh monster blood, slid between his. Their hands intertwined. Aoi froze. Her face slowly turned crimson. None of that matters anymore. She smiled with breathtaking tenderness. Something like that is trivial. She squeezed his hand against her chest. Now that we're engaged. Time stopped.
Wait, what? What do you mean you're engaged? When did this happen?
Aoi's pupils shrank. His brain refused to process what he had just heard. His heart pounded violently. Yae looked almost embarrassed, like an ordinary girl confessing to the boy she'd adored for years. You already know how I feel about you, boy. She lowered her eyes. I've always been in love with you. A trembling laugh escaped her. I'm acting like a teenage girl with a huge crush. Her cheeks flushed even deeper. I'm sure this disease, she pressed his hand more firmly against herself, is like a disease that doesn't want to go away. As long as I know you, her fingers slowly guided his arm toward her lips. I don't think. She inhaled deeply, that even devouring you, her lips brushed against his skin, will make it go away. Aoi's body stiffened. His pulse thundered beneath her mouth. She closed her eyes, savoring nothing more than his scent, yet the intimacy carried a terrifying implication. She whispered, almost lovingly. Hey! Her voice drifted into something distant. My feelings remind me of an old story. Darkness gathered around her. The warehouse itself seemed to grow colder. Do you know? Long strands of black hair began to unfurl behind her. The story about the god who leaves on a journey. The shadows thickened. To chase after the boy she loves? The air became suffocating. Every instinct screamed at Aoi to run, yet his body refused to obey. Yae smiled. Would you? The black mass behind her slowly lifted itself from the pile of corpses, its limbs bent in impossible directions. Its endless hair crawled across the concrete like living darkness. Like to know how it ends. A deafening impact shook the warehouse. Another echoed through the building. Dust rained from the ceiling. The creature crawled forward on grotesquely elongated arms, each movement accompanied by the sickening crunch of bone and the scrape of claws against concrete. Aoi couldn't breathe. He couldn't scream. The colossal apparition loomed over the room like a forgotten deity of nightmares. From beneath the brim of Yae's wide hat, a single eye stared back at him. It was no longer the gaze of a woman. It was the gaze of something that had existed long before humanity learned to fear the dark. Its voice was soft. "I won't let you run anymore." She slowly stepped toward Aoi, her crimson eyes fixed entirely on him. "Boy," her voice was gentle, almost comforting. "I know you better than anyone else in the world." Aoi felt his heart skip. One by one, Yae uncovered the memories he had buried deep inside himself. She remembered the day he secretly hid the truth after killing the classroom fish. She remembered how he wandered the streets for hours whenever he received poor grades, too frightened to face his parents' disappointment. She even remembered the childish rebellion of secretly sprinkling extra salt into their meals behind their backs. There wasn't a single corner of his life she hadn't seen. Then her cheeks turned bright red, her smile became almost bashful. And above all, she lowered her voice. "How you spent the night lusting after my body." Aoi froze. His face burned with embarrassment. How? How could she possibly know that? Yae answered the question before he could ask it. "I know everything." The smile on her face grew softer. Yet her emotions had become impossible to contain. Her feelings had overflowed. She laughed quietly, almost embarrassed by her own honesty. Because love does not tolerate ignorance. To Yae, love wasn't blind. Love saw everything. It accepted nothing less than complete understanding. No secrets, no lies, no hidden thoughts. She clasped her trembling hands together. "I can't be at ease." Her eyes searched his face with heartbreaking sincerity. "Unless I know everything about you." Every year they had spent apart had become a wound that refused to heal. She stepped closer until only inches separated them. "So?" A bittersweet smile crossed her lips. "How do you plan on compensating me for all these years we've been apart?" The question sounded innocent, but beneath it lay an expectation so absolute that Aoi could scarcely breathe. Before he could answer, something enormous crashed through the darkness. A grotesque monster burst from the shadows, its twisted body lunging toward Yae with murderous intent. Its claws carved deep grooves into the concrete as its distorted face twisted into a hideous grin. Yet Yae didn't even turn around. She simply sighed. "Hey now." Her voice carried mild annoyance. "Can't you read the mood?" Blood covered her clothes. Her breathing was ragged. Her body trembled from exhaustion. Yet her determination never wavered. "Okuri Okami." It was Miyako. She forced a smile despite the pain consuming her battered body. "Aokun, I came to save you." The words carried unwavering resolve. She hadn't come to survive. She had come to protect him. Aoi stared at her in disbelief. "Aokun?" Miyako noticed the confusion written across his face. "What's the matter?" Before he could answer, Yae calmly spoke. "Miyako," her expression remained composed. "You can't win as you are right now." Her gaze swept across Miyako's injuries. "You look very tired." There was no arrogance, only certainty. "I've missed you." Yae greeted Miyako with unsettling politeness. "Well, perhaps right now isn't the best time for a reunion." Aoi's thoughts raced. Miyako is just a stalker, but she came here to save me. Yae has protected me countless times. I don't want either of them to die. I can't let this continue. His heart begged him to stop the inevitable. His body refused to move. Without another word, "You should leave!" The deafening impact scattered dust from the ceiling while broken concrete cracked beneath their feet. Silence followed. Miyako turned toward Aoi. "Everything's fine, Aokun. So don't worry, all right? As long as I'm with you?" Her expression softened with quiet devotion. "There's nothing to worry about." A faint blush colored her cheeks. She looked away shyly before speaking again. "After I'm done," a small, hopeful smile spread across her face. "Let's hurry home." Her voice grew quieter. "When we get there, I have a request." She nervously touched a finger to her lips, struggling to hide her embarrassment. "I want you." The words caught in her throat as her face turned bright red. "To give me a proper reward this time." Aoi's face turned bright red. His heart pounded wildly, not because of romance, because he no longer knew where tenderness ended and obsession began. Yae tilted her head ever so slightly beneath the brim of her hat. "This time?" The phrase lingered in her mind before she quietly dismissed it. "It doesn't matter. she murmured. I'll hear the details straight from the boy's mouth later. Right now, the air between them froze. Neither woman intended to listen. Neither intended to leave. Both had already decided only one of them would walk away. Miyako's body exploded forward. I'll just tear off. Her grin widened into madness. That filthy mouth of yours, Okuri Okami! Miyako laughed, not with joy, with obsession. Every strike she threw carried the promise of salvation. I'm getting a reward for killing you. Behind them, Aoi could only watch. His trembling body refused to move. His voice barely escaped his throat. Please. The battle only grew more violent. Stop. Neither woman acknowledged him. His words disappeared beneath the screams of monsters. Tears welled in Aoi's eyes. He looked from Miyako to Yae. Two women destroying themselves over him. His heart broke. I'd be sad if... His voice cracked. One of you dies. He reached out with shaking hands. Let's talk about it. His breathing became uneven. We don't have to fight. We can talk things out. For one hopeful moment, he believed there was still another path. I'm sure that we... Before he could finish, both women answered simultaneously. Miyako smiled. Aokun, Yae smiled. Boy. Their voices overlapped perfectly. Neither had listened to a single word. The warehouse fell silent. The two women looked at one another. Then, at exactly the same time, they spoke. Sorry. It wasn't an apology to each other. It was an apology to Aoi. Both believed they were about to do something unavoidable. Yae's smile remained gentle. This is something. Miyako finished the sentence. That can't be solved with words. Together their voices became one, especially when it's about the person you love. Love had become something terrifying, something impossible to reason with. The silence shattered. Shriek, growl, roar. Their true forms erupted. Flesh twisted, bones cracked, hair writhed like serpents. Their bodies became grotesque yokai, locked in a battle that no longer resembled two women fighting. It looked like nightmares trying to devour one another. Aoi collapsed to his knees. His breathing became ragged. He watched monsters tear each other apart. All because of him. Why? His vision blurred. I don't understand. His hands shook uncontrollably. Are you doing all this for me? The question hurt more than anything he had ever asked. Is this all my fault? Then, something answered. Not Miyako, not Yae, a voice, one that came from somewhere inside him. Yes. Everything around him seemed to stop. The voice continued. Everything is because of me. Aoi's eyes widened. Me? His thoughts spiraled. Who was speaking? His breathing became erratic. Who the hell is me? Something inside him had changed. Even the way he referred to himself no longer felt familiar. It was as though another self was beginning to awaken. His vision blurred as fragments of forgotten memories clawed their way back to the surface. Don't cry. Her smile carried neither regret nor fear, only affection. No matter what happened next, she wanted his final memory of her to be kind. Yet even as life slipped away, she smiled, softly. We'll meet again. His mind shattered. His tears overflowed uncontrollably. He clawed at his own head as grief consumed every part of him. He screamed until his voice gave out. The warehouse trembled. The darkness around him rippled. The walls burst apart as an enormous shadow emerged from the void, letting out a monstrous cry. A new monster opened its eyes, and the true nightmare had only just begun. Aoi's scream echoed through the abandoned warehouse, raw enough to shake even the monsters surrounding him. His heart refused to accept another goodbye. I don't want. The words escaped almost instinctively, torn from somewhere deep inside his soul. I don't want to lose someone again. The pain in his chest grew unbearable as forgotten memories clawed their way toward the surface. I don't want to be left alone again. It wasn't just fear. It was grief. The grief of someone who had already experienced a loss so devastating that his own mind had buried it. Two voices suddenly shattered the silence. Aokun! Boy! Miyako and Yae called out to him at the exact same moment. For a heartbeat, the battlefield froze as both women reached toward the same person. Yae stared silently across the ruined warehouse. Then another voice answered. Aokun? It didn't belong to Yae. The grotesque creature born from Aoi's despair slowly turned its ruined face toward him. Its distorted mouth trembled. It was calling his name. Before Aoi could understand what was happening, Miyako stepped protectively between him and the creature. It's fine now. Her calm voice somehow cut through the chaos. Aoi stared blankly at his trembling hands. What just happened? Fragments of impossible memories flashed through his mind. It's as if someone else's memories got into my head. The monster twitched. Hey, as though it wanted desperately to finish saying his name. The creature crawled forward, its broken body dragging itself across the blood-soaked floor. Oh, oh. Black tears streamed down its hollow face. It hurts. I don't want that. I don't want that. Its trembling voice sounded heartbreakingly human. I wanted to be with you, Ao. Every word dripped with unbearable sorrow rather than hatred. Its monstrous face twisted into something resembling a smile. Because I love you. So much. The confession echoed throughout the warehouse, not as the words of a predator, but as the final wish of someone whose love had survived even after becoming a monster. I would have liked to stay by your side. Aoi's pupils widened. Another memory surfaced. Mia. His voice cracked before the forgotten name finally escaped his lips. Ko? For the first time. The memories no longer belonged to someone else. They belonged to him. Then, something else appeared. Behind the grieving creature stood another abomination. Larger, silent, watching. It never spoke. It simply existed like a nightmare that had been waiting patiently for this exact moment. After several agonizing seconds, Miyako turned toward Yae. Okuriokami, listen. Take the boy and get out of here. Miyako blinked in disbelief. Huh? Yae never looked away from the new monster. Keep the boy as far away from that thing as possible. Silence answered her. Just for now, Aoi reached toward them. Yae-san! Yae finally smiled at him. It wasn't the confident smile he knew. It was the smile of someone forcing herself to stay strong. Let me be clear. I'll never abandon him. But that's the only way to protect him right now. Aoi's voice shook. Yae-san! That's why. Yae's eyes softened. Don't worry. I'll definitely find you once again. Before leaving, she looked back one last time. Tears quietly rolled down her face. Please, don't hate me for this. Then she disappeared into the darkness, leaving Aoi alone with Miyako and the monsters. The warehouse fell strangely quiet. Aoi stood frozen. Beside him, Miyako gently rested a hand on his shoulder. Everything is fine now. Her voice sounded almost identical to the one buried inside his memories. No one will find us here. She lowered her eyes. The confidence in her expression faded, replaced by quiet guilt. Forgive me. Miyako pulled Aoi into a trembling embrace, unable to stop the guilt crushing her heart. She had failed him once again. I made you go through something terrible again, even though I promised that I'd protect you. Her grip tightened as tears welled in her eyes. I won't leave you alone ever again. That's why. But Aoi couldn't accept those words. Please, I'm begging you. His voice cracked as he looked at her in disbelief. The hell are you saying? Miyako blinked in confusion. Aokun? Aoi lowered his head, blaming only himself. All of this is my fault. All you did was say that you liked me and risked your life for me. His emotions finally burst free. I get it. I'm an egocentric guy that can only blame others. Why would anyone like me? His fists trembled. Please just tell me, once and for all. His desperate plea echoed through the silence. There has to be a reason. As to why you are protecting a lowlife like me. His voice shook with self-hatred. Otherwise, there would be no reason for someone like me to be alive. For a moment, Miyako said nothing. Then she stepped closer and gently wrapped him in her arms. Don't say such cruel things. She rested her forehead against his, speaking with quiet conviction. You'll end up hurting yourself again like that. Aoi searched desperately for an answer. But Miyako simply smiled through her tears. I know very well who you are. She wasn't blinded by ignorance. She knew every flaw he believed defined him, but none of that matters to me. That reason or self-interest you're thinking of doesn't exist. Her confession was painfully simple. I simply love you. Nearby, Yae quietly watched the exchange. That's just the type of beings that I know that we are. Still unable to understand, Aoi asked the question that haunted him. Are you saying that it's okay for me to die without knowing anything? Miyako answered without hesitation. Yeah, that's okay. Remain oblivious and be happy. And then one day, the two of us can die together in peace. Those words weren't born from cruelty. They were the wish of someone who wanted nothing more than to keep the person she loved safe, even if it meant carrying every burden herself. Unbeknownst to them, hidden eyes had been watching everything. He's crying and asking questions. He looks like a kid. Well, he is a kid, but still. The unseen observer sighed, I hate kids. They don't listen and never shut up, and they have bad manners. He paused, and they also, a woman approached him. Hashiba-san. She lowered her head apologetically. I'm sorry. I lost sight of Hachisaku-sama and Miyako. The man remained surprisingly calm. It's okay. It's better than chasing them and getting killed in the process. He calmly lit a cigarette, refusing to rush. For now, we'll just cross our arms and calmly wait for a new chance to present itself. His gaze drifted into the darkness, and when that time comes, his expression turned cold. We must become demons for the sake of the people. The masked woman finally broke the silence. Do you really think she'll come? Without even lifting his head, the man answered with complete confidence. She'll come. Otherwise, all of this would be for naught. Then, as if fate itself had responded to his conviction, he looked toward the apartment building and smiled. Speak of the devil. Look. So there you are, Okuri-okami. Miyako's expression instantly darkened. The monstrous corruption crawling across her body stirred violently, responding to the danger before her. She glared at the newcomer with murderous intent. Get the fuck out of here right now, or I'll kill you. A critical situation. The broad-shouldered stranger remained completely unfazed. I see. So the young Sakurai has already gone to sleep. Well, I'm just glad he's better than I thought. Miyako refused to lower her guard. Get out of here. Her voice carried no hesitation, only hatred. The stranger merely smiled. Now, no need to be in such a frenzy. Miyako remained silent, her distorted arm twitching as if barely restrained. I'd like to avoid unnecessary conflict if possible. Besides, I want to talk with you for a bit. Don't worry, nothing is going to happen tonight. But well, only if you cooperate. Every word was spoken politely. Every word sounded like a threat. More footsteps echoed through the abandoned building. What about you two investigators? Want to join us too? Another pair finally appeared. Sorry about the delay. We're not used to the surroundings just yet. The stranger chuckled. Don't worry, I actually admire your work ethic. Much obliged. The man finally introduced himself. Call me Shijin. He smiled almost cheerfully. That's how you all call me, right? One of the investigators stepped forward. Then, Shijin. I know it's sudden, but I'd like to ask you something. If I'm allowed, of course. I'd like to ask you about a boy called Sakurai Ao. Shijin nodded without resistance. I don't mind. Then his eyes shifted toward Miyako. What about you, Okuri-okami? She answered without even looking at him. Do whatever you want. Yet her next words carried an unmistakable promise. Just keep in mind that I already memorized your faces. It wasn't a warning. It was a death sentence reserved for the future. The masked woman stepped between them before the tension could explode. Now, cool off a bit. We have no reason to kill him. Shijin laughed quietly. Haha, that guy's pretty popular, isn't he? The other investigator couldn't help but agree. Yeah, for real. Everyone seemed interested in one person. Everyone wanted Aoi. The only question was why. If so, aren't you curious? About who that boy, who's in the middle of everything? His smile slowly disappeared. Well, to put it simply, the atmosphere instantly shifted. Sakurai Ao has the poison that kills monsters. The revelation struck everyone in the room. The target of all monsters is that poison. At last, the terrifying truth behind Aoi's existence began to unfold. Shijin continued, his explanation sounding less like theory and more like ancient knowledge. Monsters are inherently different from humans, therefore, they don't die the same way humans do. Even when their flesh is gone, the soul remains in this world, to eventually be reborn once again. And so the cycle repeats itself for all eternity, an endless curse, a never-ending reincarnation, a prison without escape. Each rebirth only pushed them further into madness, corrupting both their body and mind to the point of going mad. To free themselves from this curse, they need Sakurai Ao's poison. Shijin spoke without emotion, as though reciting an eternal truth. The curse of immortality can only be undone by his poison. Every monster imprisoned within the endless cycle of rebirth longed for a single salvation. Then came the confession that silenced the room. Well, that poison was something I originally produced. No one moved. Even Miyako's monstrous body froze. Shijin lowered his eyes, neither proud nor ashamed. I used to do that to pay for my sins. His voice carried the exhaustion of someone who had wandered through centuries. But both monsters, and that boy, Sakurai Aoi, stole that poison from me. He didn't speak with hatred. If anything, he sounded almost sympathetic. Just because he stole something when he was little, he has had to suffer his entire life. What a pitiful existence. The words echoed through the room like a funeral bell. But before anyone could dwell on that tragedy, the classroom exploded. The wooden floor cracked beneath Miyako's feet as her body twisted into its grotesque form, long white hair whipping through the darkness like living tendrils. The monster inside her answered Shijin's pity with pure possessive fury. A mere errand boy has no right to speak like that about Aokun. To threaten Aoi was to threaten Miyako's very existence. Yet Shijin didn't even blink. That's not something you should be telling me, right? His calmness was almost insulting. I simply bring the word of the master and the due punishment. But I'm nothing more than a messenger. Whether he believed those words himself remained a mystery. Was he truly powerless, or merely hiding behind the title of messenger? The uncertainty lingered like poison. Well then, I'd like you all to hear something. Every soul in the room instinctively stiffened. Even the investigators sensed that whatever followed would change everything. Shijin slowly turned toward Miyako. For the mere shadow of what was once Miyako, his words pierced deeper than any blade. He wasn't speaking to the woman who loved Aoi. He was speaking to the fractured remnant of someone who no longer truly existed. Then his gaze shifted toward the investigators. And the humans responsible for handling monsters? I bring you this message. His smile disappeared. If you get in the way, you will be punished. The classroom fell silent. There was no threat in his tone, no rage, only absolute certainty, like a divine law that had already been decided long before anyone in the room had been born. Even Miyako hesitated, not because she feared him, but because she sensed that something much larger than Shijin was speaking through him. Satisfied, Shijin dusted off his clothes. That's all. My job here is done, so I will take my leave. He turned toward the broken doorway. Until we meet again. Then he suddenly stopped. Almost as an afterthought, he looked over his shoulder. Oh, right. There's one more message for you, Okuri-okami. His smile widened ever so slightly. Well then, see you. The moment he vanished into the rain, the suffocating pressure disappeared with him. One investigator collapsed into a chair with a weary sigh. Ha! That was tiring. The other forced a nervous laugh. So Okuri-okami also went home. Seriously. For a second there, I didn't know what was going to happen. Guess we were both too impatient for our own good. Their relief felt painfully human after standing between monsters capable of leveling the building. The masked young woman remained silent. She simply stared toward the doorway where Shijin had disappeared. The young investigator rubbed the back of his neck. I still got a lot to learn. My bad. He smiled awkwardly. Had you not been here, I'd probably be dead already. That's what I believe. He quietly offered her a cigarette, a simple gesture, a fragile moment of peace after surviving a nightmare. She accepted it. Thanks a lot. Smoke drifted lazily through the moonlit classroom. For a fleeting moment, the horror gave way to something almost comforting. Two exhausted investigators sharing silence after facing death together. The young investigator leaned back in his chair. I need to get better at this. I should stop having so many regrets. You were also like that before, weren't you? His question wasn't random. A young boy smiled innocently beside an older version of himself. Sakurai? The name escaped as little more than a whisper, but in that single word, the mystery deepened. It was then that a quiet thought echoed like a distant proverb. Thus she said, "Man cannot hope to match beasts." It was a cruel truth humanity had repeated throughout history. No matter how determined a person became, there were monsters that existed beyond human understanding. Yet another truth quietly followed. However, beasts cannot hope to love the way man does. Perhaps that was why, despite all the horror surrounding them, humans were still capable of finding moments of happiness. 8 hours earlier, morning sunlight spilled softly into the apartment. Miyako stood watching Aoi with a gentle smile. She tilted her head, noticing the troubled expression on his face. Humans are? The thought lingered in her mind. They're allowed a few moments of peace and quiet, even after surviving monsters, curses, and death itself. What's the matter? Aoi didn't answer. Instead, he quietly opened a shopping bag. Inside were neatly folded clothes. Miyako blinked in surprise. Aoi looked away awkwardly. Miyako gently lifted one of the shirts. These are your clothes, aren't they, Aokun? He gave a small nod. Put them on. Then, almost embarrassed, he quickly clarified, just to be clear, I'm not giving them to you. His voice was as blunt as ever. We're going out now. So it would be a problem if you went out like that. For someone who struggled to express his feelings, those words already revealed more than enough. As Aoi reached for the door, another confession quietly escaped him. I can't be on my own. The room fell silent. Miyako looked at him with gentle surprise before smiling with unmistakable warmth. Therefore, it's better if you stick together with me all the time, and never separate. There was no teasing in her voice, only sincere affection. Hey, I'm kinda curious. Where are we going together and what will we do? Before Aoi could answer, she laughed softly. Aoi checked the money inside his wallet. After counting what remained, he nodded. Yeah, I think this much will be enough. Then he finally revealed his destination. I wanted to go shopping for some new clothes. Miyako stared at him, unable to hide the happiness blooming across her face. Aoi sighed. Whatever you do, just don't complain. Hours later, shopping bags filled Miyako's arms. She couldn't stop smiling. She kept calling for him like an excited child. Hey, Aoi remained silent. Hey, still no answer. Hey. He finally turned. Their eyes met. Miyako smiled so brightly that even the lingering darkness surrounding her seemed to disappear. Hey, Aokun. Standing before the mirror in her new clothes, she almost looked like an entirely different person. Gone were the torn, blood-stained garments that had become part of her existence. Instead, she looked beautiful, almost human again. She held the shopping bags tightly against her chest. Can I really have this? Her voice trembled. I can't believe you gave me all this. Aoi rubbed the back of his head. Well, before he could continue, Miyako interrupted him. Her smile grew even brighter. I'm so happy. Then her eyes drifted toward the receipt. But you spent all your savings on these? Aoi immediately shook his head. It's fine. He stopped himself almost instantly. No, wait, it's not fine. He let out a small, awkward laugh. But I don't want you going around with tattered clothes. Silence filled the space between them. Miyako simply stared. Then Aoi quietly called her name. Hey, Miyako. Are you mad? About yesterday? Aoi looked down. I'm reflecting on it. His voice was heavy with guilt. I'm sure that my carelessness harmed everyone. Miyako studied his face. Then she asked softly, That's why. Did you buy these clothes as a way to atone? Aoi hesitated. He looked toward the sky before answering honestly. I know it doesn't make up for it. It's how it turned out. There was no excuse. Only regret. Only someone desperately trying to become better. Miyako slowly stepped closer. Her bandaged hand gently rested against his shoulder. If that's how it turned out, her fingers tightened ever so slightly. Then, she wrapped both arms around him. Her body pressed against his as if she never wanted to let him go again. Her lips curved into a trembling smile. That means she held him even tighter. I can be greedier, right? Aoi froze. Miyako looked at him with trembling eyes that held nothing but sincerity. Don't be afraid. They were simply the wish of someone terrified of being rejected. She lowered her gaze, her fingers nervously intertwining. It's just a simple request. Even speaking seemed difficult, as though admitting the desire itself made her vulnerable. After a long silence, she finally whispered what had been buried inside her heart. I'd like to do something lovers do. For several seconds, Aoi's thoughts stopped entirely. His cheeks flushed bright red as his mouth hung open. A date? Miyako smiled. A genuine, radiant smile that erased every trace of hesitation. Yes. For Miyako, every ordinary moment felt extraordinary simply because Aoi was beside her. Where are we going? You don't have to worry about the money. Going with you anywhere is fun. She wasn't interested in expensive experiences. She only wanted memories. There's no need to rush. The afternoon slipped by peacefully. There was an unmistakable glow in her eyes. Every second matters. I mean, it's a date, isn't it? Noticing Aoi had become unusually quiet, she hesitated. Did I say something weird? He scratched his cheek, clearly struggling to explain what he was thinking. How do I say this? After an awkward pause, he smiled faintly. I mean, that's something a human would say. The words weren't meant to hurt her. If anything, they were the highest compliment he could give. Yet something inside Miyako quietly trembled. For a brief moment, her smile froze before she gently replied, I see. But somewhere deep behind that smile, a shadow quietly stirred. Eventually, the sun began to disappear beyond the skyline. Their date had reached its end. Aoi rubbed the back of his neck. Well then, I'll see you around. Okay, the answer was simple, but Miyako didn't move. Instead, she stood there watching him with an expression that seemed unwilling to let the moment end. Outside Aoi's home, the evening breeze gently carried strands of Miyako's long hair across her face. She smiled brighter than she had all day. It was pretty fun today. Thank you, Ao-kun. Aoi smiled awkwardly. Well, yes. Miyako gazed toward the darkening sky. It really went by really fast. There was a strange sadness hidden beneath those words, one that Aoi couldn't quite understand. Miyako? She slowly turned toward him. Ao-kun, can you come here for a second? Curious, he stepped closer. Mia. Before he could finish saying her name, she wrapped both arms around him. The sudden embrace froze him in place. His heartbeat thundered against his chest, while Miyako buried her face against him, holding him as though she never wanted to let go. After several quiet moments, Miyako finally whispered, I was really, really happy. Reluctantly, she loosened her embrace. Her eyes met his. They glistened with a mixture of hope and despair. I want to stay at your side as a human forever. The confession struck Aoi harder than the hug itself, not because of the words, but because they sounded impossible, as though she already knew fate would never grant such a wish. She smiled sadly. That's how greedy I am. There was nothing selfish about her desire. She simply wanted the ordinary future that every human takes for granted, a future she feared she could never have. Taking one final step backward, Miyako steadied herself. I should get going. She offered one last gentle smile. Good night. Then, before courage could abandon her, she confessed everything she had kept locked inside her heart. I love you. Without waiting for a reply, she turned and disappeared into the darkness. Aoi remained standing in the doorway long after she had vanished. His fingers slowly touched the place where she had embraced him. His heart should have been racing with happiness. Instead, an uncomfortable guilt slowly crept into his chest. I did something wrong. Didn't I? He couldn't explain why her goodbye felt less like a farewell and more like the end of something. The peaceful romance dissolved into silence as Miyako walked alone beneath the night sky, quietly observed a truth older than humanity itself. Man cannot hope to match beasts. However, beasts cannot hope to love the way man does. Those words lingered in the darkness, almost like a warning. Miyako stopped walking. Her posture stiffened. The gentle smile Aoi had fallen for slowly disappeared. Something inside her shifted. Her expression became unfamiliar. Her lips curled into a grin that no longer belonged to the woman from the date. Looking into the darkness, she whispered, "Make sure you never forget that." When she looked up again, her eyes were no longer filled with affection. You'll never be like me. The woman who had shyly asked for a date, the woman who had nervously confessed her love, seemed to vanish in an instant, leaving behind someone or something entirely different. As the night swallowed her silhouette, one final question echoed through the silence. Is there another personality residing within Miyako? Or perhaps, well, that's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed today's chapter. If you did, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you won't miss what happens next. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching with me.